Hello everyone, my name is Xu Tongyuan, and I'm currently a PhD candidate at the Edinburgh College of Art, University of Edinburgh. And my research focused on explore how the colonial history of the Tianjin Concession affects the current urban spatial planning, cultural identity, and the collective memory of Tianjin. My research uses a theoretical framework that intersects decolonial studies, collective memory theory, late capitalism, and post-colonial theory. It employs critical spatial practice, collecting fragments, and other themes as methodologies, with other themes serving as a practical approach as well. The aim of this research is to deconstruct traditional narratives about the history of the Tianjin concessions and unravel their complex history and cultural dynamics. These elements create a closed-loop relationship where theory, methodology, and practice influence each other. In my research, I draw on the decolonial theories of Albert Memmi, Franz Fanon, Edward Said, and Homi Bhabha to reveal how colonial heritage shapes Tianjin's culture and urban landscape, impacting collective memory and identity. And for Albert Memmi's research, he examines how colonizers control the colonized through psychological and social mechanisms. And in my research, Memmi's theory reveals how the British used architectures and urban planning in the Tianjin concession to solidify their dominance. For example, Victorian-style architectures and British street names changed Tianjin's landscape and psychologically reinforced colonial rule, leaving visual and mental imprints of their control. And for Fanon, he examines violence in decolonization and its impact on the colonized. In my research, this applies to Chinese history education, which emphasizes invasions and resistance, fostering national pride and collective memory. However, this focus often neglects history's role in future urban development, leading to older generations having reservations about foreigners from former invading countries. Edward Said criticized Western stereotypes of the East used to justify colonialism, and in my research, this is seen in how Western powers promoted through machines as modernization symbols to control and employed economically, reshaping social structures, and this led to changes in China's economy and the decline of traditional handicrafts. Homi Bhabha introduced the third space concept, where culture changes through interactions between colonizers and the colonized, breaking the East and West boundary and creating hybrid identities. In my research, Bhabha's theory helps me understand the cultural fusion in Tianjin's concession. For instance, Italian architectures, informal Italian concessions are now Chinese restaurants, showing cultural hybridity. This idea is also reflected in my independent publication, where I blend Tianjin's concession architecture with street scenes from its former colonizers, creating a hybrid and surreal space. At the same time, I also combined the theory of collective memory to explore the importance of monuments and architectures as places of memory. There are still several researchers whose research and concept contributes to my research. Maurice Hapbox argued that collective memory is built through shared social experience, and his theory helps analyze how Tianjin's monuments maintain collective memory. And Pierre Nora introduced the concept of a site of memory, which are locations that hold special importance in collective memory as embodiments of historical events. Nora's theory helps me identify significant places of memory in Tianjin, like the former British and Italian concessions and now tourist areas, playing a key role in modern cultural identity and showcasing Tianjin's colonial history. And Alois Riegel discussed the historical and memory value of monuments. In my first other film, I specifically mentioned the historical and cultural value of monuments, especially in shaping collective memory. And in the French concession, there was a sculpture of goddess of wind victory. But when the Japanese occupied the French concessions during Second World War, the Japanese took the sculpture and melted it to make bombs. Later, after the founding of New China, the sculpture of the patriotic General Ji Hongchang appeared again in the original position of the goddess of wind victory. So the change of monuments is also a change of regime, I think. And Horizon explores how architecture and places contribute to memory and identity, especially how memories are rebuilt when places are lost. And some buildings, some architectures in Tianjin concessions were demolished during modernization, but in the memories of older residents, these architectures still symbolize a specific historical and cultural period. This example is also used in my third as a film, where I included comments from a government message board where residents requested to preserve the original form of the old concession architectures. And additionally, I applied David Harvey's and Frederick Jameson's series on late capitalism and post-colonialism to analyze how capitalism during the colonial period shaped Tianjin's economic development and urban positioning. David Harvey's time-space compression explains how technological advancements and globalization make the world feel smaller, speeding up travel, communication, and trade. In Tianjin, modern tools like super machines boosted production and exports, integrating China into the global supply chain as the world factory. Frederick Jameson in Postmodernism or the cultural logic of late capitalism discusses how postmodernism emphasizes visual appeal but lacks historical depth. Globalization shows capitalism's global influence reshaping cultures and economies. The Starshine Continent's resort in Tianjin illustrate this by mixing global landmarks designs, promoting a Western lifestyle, and reflecting colonial economic control. Its decline highlights the instability of Tianjin's growth in a globalized world and the challenge of balancing local culture with global appeal. And my research methodologies are guided by specific theoretical frameworks. First is archival research and fragment collection, and this combines decolonization and collective memory series by systematically collecting and analyzing historical archives and personal memories to create a coherent historical narrative. Second is critical special practice based on Lefebvre's special production theory. Lefebvre argued that space is not just physical but a product of social relations involving power dynamics and social practice. And this helps us understand how the spatial layout of Tianjin's concessions reflected and reinforced the power relations. For example, local Chinese were restricted from entering concession areas, highlighting social hierarchies. And after 1949, this architectures were redistributed to local residents, displacing original owners and demonstrating how power dynamics influence space. Lastly, other films and independent publications demonstrate the diverse historical and cultural aspects of the Tianjin concession through multiple layers of visual and textual narration. And in my research, I used several methods to uncover the history and cultural dynamics of Tianjin's concessions. I started with archival research and fragments collection, gathering planning maps, photographies, government documents, oral histories, personal memories, and videos. These pieces were woven into other films, offering diverse perspectives and historical narratives. I also used critical spatial analysis to research Tianjin's urban planning and its power dynamics. For instance, the replacement of the Goddess of Victory sculpture with General Zi Hongchang's monument shows how regime changes are reflected in urban spaces. And in creating other films, I focused on visual storytelling to illustrate the layered history and special transformations of the Tianjin concessions. Additionally, I produced independent publications comparing and analyzing street scenes of Tianjin and the colonial countries, revealing the interactions between history and culture. These methods form a closed loop relationship where the theoretical framework guides the methodology, which designs specific research methods that are then applied in practice to achieve the research goals. Regarding the creation of other films, I want to highlight the crucial role of voiceovers. Voiceovers are guide the audience ensuring their understanding of the content and intention behind the film. I wrote the text first and then find archival footage or images to match it, which ensures the film's narrative is coherent and the theme is clear. And this text-first approach helps convey a multiple-layered narrative about Tianjin concessions, showing how archives, collective memories, and individual memories evolve over time. And specifically, the place of memory compares changes in street names and monuments in Tianjin concession, showing how power shapes collective memory. I also reflect on my personal dislocation when I first visited the UK, sparking thoughts on cultural identity and belonging.
Tianjin is my hometown, a city I had never left before I started my postgraduate studies in the UK. The UK is 9,000 kilometers away from Tianjin, spanning across Asia and Europe. However, upon my arrival in the UK, I found the environment not as unfamiliar as I had imagined. The architectural and landscape features of Tianjin's city bear many similarities to European architecture, which gives me an unexpected sense of dislocation. It's absurd when all these buildings from different countries converge in the same small city. It's the trace of the colonial history of 9 countries. The city is a visual collection of symbols, and this way of perceiving it is explicit and real in the Tianjin concession. 100 years ago, 9 countries set up concessions in Tianjin. Russia, Italy, Britain, Belgium, the United States, Germany, Austria, Japan, France. Collective memory is like a public monument of a city, shaping history into a common narrative, creating a shared past. But how are the memories of a generation shaped? The most interesting point is that in shaping the collective memory, all of them use the local residents or locals to support their own statements, as if the first-hand materials obtained by penetrating into each other's interior are the most authentic. Memory tends to seek spatial expression, a function indeed served by monuments. However, as monuments provide this spatial representation, they also initiate a new phase of memory, which, if not sustained by continuous symbolic reinvestment, may begin the process of forgetting. This is why, as eras change, monuments and buildings symbolizing authority are often the first to be transformed or erased. Street names also serve as a means of shaping memory and providing commemoration. During the Tianjin concession period, street names were used as a boast of land ownership in an area. These past street names act like a mirror of colonization, reflecting the memory of the homeland in the colonizers' minds.
And for the second, as a film, The Civil Machine in China, it analyzed the spread of civil machine and advancing strategies to rival colonial logic and capital. It explores how these items symbolize the impact of capitalism and colonialism on China's social structure and international image.
The spread of the sewing machine is inseparable from colonial history. On August 19, 1896, the Manchester Guardian published a picture of Li Hongzhang visiting the sewing machine factory, which was also given to him by two, one of which was dedicated to Queen Cixi. Around 1880, the Singer Company established its Shanghai branch at 446 Nanjing East Road. To better promote their products, Singer employed Chinese female workers at a higher salary, who, after training, would carry sewing machines along the streets to demonstrate and explain how to operate them to the public. This strategy mirrored Singer's advertising tactics in the United States. Simultaneously, Singer employed various strategies to maintain its position, such as attracting Chinese consumers with payment plans and a range of machine types to meet diverse needs. Soon, Singer's sewing machines became well known in Shanghai as advanced garment-making machines, and Singer almost became synonymous with sewing machines. The popularity of sewing machines in China and other colonies was mutually reinforced by the trend of Western clothing. This fashion shift significantly boosted the import of sewing machines, reflecting the synergy between adopting Western clothing styles and using Western sewing machines. Sewing machines, as symbols of modernization, became widespread globally. Simultaneously, they also became important symbols of wealth in Chinese households. A series of photographs indicate that the social aspirations associated with sewing machines in the colonies upon their initial appearance far exceeded their functional attributes. They served as tools to signify gender, ethnicity, social class, and wealth. After the liberation of China, sewing machines continued to be seen as important household possessions, reflecting the unique fusion of Chinese cultural traditions and modernization. In the 1980s and 1990s, the Butterfly brand sewing machine, along with the Forever brand bicycle and Shanghai brand watch, became known as the three major items for young men and women's marriage, and together with the Red Lantern brand radio, were famously referred to as three rotating things and one that makes a sound. This combination became the dream standard configuration for many families. popularization of the sewing machine is also linked to the social status under the influence of the regime. Due to the socialist regime's emphasis on production over consumption, sewing machines were integrated into industrial advancement, more as tools for collective production. Although productivity was initially slow and lacked standardization, China's sewing machine industry grew rapidly, reflecting China's broader industrial ambitions and social transformation. For China, the story of the sewing machine is also a story of globalization and identity reshaping. As China became a global manufacturing hub, using sewing machines invented in Britain to mass-produce clothes supplied to the West, this situation reflects changes in the global economic power structure and China's shifting identity in the process of globalization.
And for the third other theme, Starshine Continent in Tianjin, it examines the rise and fall of the Starshine project, highlighting the interplay between global capital and local culture. It shows the challenges and transformations Tianjin faces in redefining itself amidst globalization.
In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Tianjin, a port city in northern China, was forcibly transformed into concessions controlled by various foreign powers. The colonizers established miniature replicas of their own countries, leaving behind Western-style buildings, infrastructure, street names, and distinctive sculptures. This colonial history not only altered the urban landscape of Tianjin, but also profoundly impacted its cultural identity. This influence is evident in Tianjin's subsequent self-positioning as an international city and in its urban planning and development. The Starshine Continent Resort project is a vivid illustration of this contradiction. Located in the southern part of Tianjin, it was once expected to become an international focal point, symbolizing a grand dream of integrating architectural styles from around the world. From the passive acceptance of the concession era to the proactive creation of the Starshine Continent Resort, Tianjin's history seems to have come full circle on this land. This project is not only a reflection on the colonial history of the past, but also a profound exploration of Tianjin's efforts towards modernization and internationalization. In 2007, Shining Star Group acquired the land in the Tianjia Lake area for 6.29 billion yuan, with a commitment to develop this 4,000-acre land and 7,000-acre water area into a miniature version of the 5 continents, each reflecting the architectural styles and cultural characteristics of different regions. However, this project, once marketed with the slogan, "The world is yours," soon revealed problems amidst the frenzy of China's real estate market. Despite the developers having mortgaged the land, the market's confidence in this development remains strong. From the official promotional videos of the Starshine Continent Resort 16 years ago, it is clear that internationalization, luxury, and refined Western-style living were the most important selling points. 16 years later, when juxtaposing the current state of the Starshine Resort with the advertised international and refined lifestyle in the promotional video, the disparity between imagination and reality casts a lingering shadow over the rapidly developing yet problem-ridden cities across China. As the project's massive scale and financial issues became apparent, the future of Starshine began to look uncertain. Sales slowed down and financial pressures increased. By 2011, rumors of Starshine's bankruptcy began to circulate. Although these rumors were eventually debunked, the project's progress significantly slowed and ultimately came to a halt. Due to a lack of funds and various pressures encountered during the initial stages of development, Starshine Continent Resort ceased construction in less than 5 years. Of the 5 continents, only the Americas section was close to completion.
I made an independent publication to help viewers understand other films. It compares street scenes in Tianjin concessions with those in colonizing countries, highlighting the harmony and absurdity of the architecture. And this publication, independent publication, complements the films by providing additional context and emphasizing the power of imagery and controversial viewpoints. And my research project concludes with three other films as the main method of documentation and analysis, supported by an independent publication. Each film explores the connection between post-colonialism and capitalism in the development of the Tianjin concessions. These films will also be included as chapters in my dissertation. By combining decolonization theory, collective memory theory, and critical special practice, my research revels the complex history and cultural dynamics of Tianjin concessions. These frameworks help me understand the deep impact of colonial heritage on urban space, cultural identity, and collective memory. Through other films and independent publications, I present the history and culture of Tianjin concessions in a multi-layered and multi-perspective way. This approach offers a new understanding and experience for broader audience. Specifically, the place of memory focuses on the colonial history and its impact on urban planning. It explores the relationship between personal and collective memory, highlighting the changes in street names and monuments in Tianjin concession and the civil machine and China as a film. It shows how the civil machine as a tool of industrialization helped China become the factory of the world, reflecting economic and social changes and their colonial influence. It rivals the colonial logic and capital expansion strategy in China. And for such a continent in China, it analyzed the interweaving of global capital and local culture. It depicts the challenges and transformations Tianjin faced in its modernization process, illustrating the city's efforts to redefine itself in the context of globalization. So these films, other films, collectively explore Tianjin's post-colonial influence and modern development. The first film sets the historical context, the second shows industrial impact, and the third highlights modern challenges and transformations. They form a closed loop, revealing how cultural and economic strategies interact under post-colonialism. And through my research, I aim to offer a new perspective on understanding the history and cultural identity of the Tianjin concessions. This is not only an exploration of the past, but also a vision for future urban planning and cultural heritage preservation. Through films and publications, I hope to challenge traditional academic methods, attract a broader audience, and deepen the understanding of Tianjin concessions. Thank you so much.